Perhaps Ellison is also telling us, if you have the power to create your own God, you have no idea, really, what kind of God you're creating. Better than food, man. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Better Than Food Book Reviews. I'm your host, Clifford Lee Sargent. Great to see you as always. Hope you're doing well. Get that coffee. Delicious. From Burundi today. Fantastic. How's it going? Good to see you. Getting hot over here. Really hot. Today is I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream by the American author Harlan Ellison, published in 1967. This is the ultimate dystopian AI short story, very topical for all you AI doomers out there. According to Ellison, in an interview linked below, he wrote it in one night. Harlan Ellison was a legendary author of speculative fiction and also something of an infamous contrarian. He insisted that he was not a sci-fi writer and that he never be called one, as he hated the connotation and marginalization that came with the title. He was a fierce individualist, uncompromising. Something of a badass, right? He does not strike me as a fellow who enjoyed taking orders or being subservient to anyone or anything if he could help it. His biography, running away from home, working a bunch of odd jobs, and the accounts of his aggression, like the time he sent a publishing house a rotting dead gopher, support this. Ellison didn't want to be under anybody's control. So this short story is his nightmare of being subjected to borrow the title of Ted Kaczynski's book, Technological Slavery. Coincidentally, the protagonist, the main character and unreliable narrator of this story, is named Ted. Ain't that some shit? I'll give you a summary of the story. I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream is a short dystopian horror story about 5 humans trapped inside an enormous computer known as AM. AM. AM was created as a result of an extended Cold War that developed into World War III. Nearly all human life on Earth was eradicated. These characters are the last 5 humans on Earth, and the computer is keeping them alive in its vast subterranean complex, extending their lives indefinitely in order to torture them. They've been there for 109 years. AM seems to be able to summon whatever physical manifestation it desires. The humans barely survive off its hideous food offerings and live in fear and hiding, subjected to its sadistic games, progressively broken down and dehumanized. Their goals in the story are to escape the wrath of AM and eat. It's one of the bleakest premises for a story I've ever encountered. And you know me, I've read a lot of dark stuff. This is dark as hell. Personally, I'm not afraid of technology, but I am afraid of certain people who weaponize it. These characters have had their autonomy stolen from them by technology itself in the most grotesque way imaginable, on a scale that we don't have to deal with quite yet, thankfully. But there are plenty of ways technology steals our autonomy in the modern era when it's used by bad actors. For example, identity theft. But thankfully, there are tools to help fight back, which is why I'd like to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Aura. Aura is an all-in-one digital security service that protects your personal online information. Did you know that there are bounty prices on the dark web for your personal financial information? Oh yeah. Check out this Wall Street Journal article by Nicole Nguyen I've linked below. Inside, she lists the going rates for your credit card number, PayPal credentials, and crypto wallet. On top of this, there are companies out there called data brokers who make billions selling your data to marketers, scammers, and even, this is insane, stalkers. So if you want an all-in-one digital security service that protects you from these kind of attacks, check out Aura. It's one app with every layer of protection. Aura provides you with alerts if your personal information is found on the dark web, real-time fraud alerts for credit and banking, 24/7 monitoring to help keep your identity secure, a secure VPN, antivirus, password manager, and more, as well as US-based support available around the clock in case something goes wrong. If anything does happen, Aura includes $5 million in identity theft insurance protection, and they have US fraud experts ready to help 24/7. You can get all this in one app at one affordable price. I do not suggest waiting around to protect yourself. It's not worth the risk. To get a 14-day trial and see if any of your data has been exposed, go to aura.com/BTF or click on the link below. And thanks to Aura for sponsoring the show. In this story, there's a caustic physicality to Ellison's writing, a strange ferocity in his descriptions of pain and violence, almost a pathological glee, a touch of insanity, right? The protagonist has clearly become insane after 109 years in the bowels of AM. Ellison's unhinged reading of the audiobook, which you can find online and which I highly recommend, drives this point home. I didn't pick up on the insanity nearly as much reading it as I did listening to it. You can kind of slide by that part, that the narrator is in fact, nuts at this point, which makes complete sense. And with Ellison shrieking and screaming and laughing in the audiobook, it becomes quite clear. Ellison almost takes on the quality of AM in relation to his fictional characters, torturing them in biblical, mythological fashion with the scenarios he conjures. All writers play God to get their ideas across, right? But with Ellison in this story, it's explicit. It's almost Sadian, without the sex, right? Like these thin characters are constructed and hurled about in this fictional environment, literally. In the senseless, cruel authoritarianism of the machine, you can see the influence of Kafka on Ellison, maybe from something like The Trial or In the Penal Colony, those two titles by Kafka. And in the vast, unfathomable complexity and mythological quality of the computer's labyrinthine prison world, you can see the influence of Borges. It's known that Ellison was influenced by both authors. This story is, of course, very timely, as I'm sure you all realize, as we are rapidly approaching the singularity, or so I've read in articles about 16 times every 30 minutes. This story is the antithesis of the Kurzweilian utopia being pushed by AI optimists. You know, Ray Kurzweil, the guy who coined the singularity. It's about as far south as the whole story could go. Literally, too, since the computer is located far beneath the surface of the Earth. It's even darker than the Matrix. Even the machines in the Matrix viewed the humans as something utilitarian. They operated according to a kind of logic, a cruel logic, but logic nonetheless. Something comprehensible. You could understand why they were doing what they were doing. In a way, you could at least see how they arrived at their conclusions. In Ellison's story, there is no logic with the machine. Ironically, considering AI, it's supposed to be very logical, right? Because it's insane. A mad god. A psychopath. An all-powerful psychopath. AI is supposed to be so logical, so reasonable, so rational. But AI hallucinates. It has these freak-out moments. It goes off, right? And human beings are subject to mental illness. And if we're trying to replicate human consciousness within AI by mimicking the organic structure of the human brain artificially, who's to say that artificial brain, that machine, can't deviate like ours do organically? And if you think about that just growing in scale, it's not the same yet, but once you get on par with the complexity of a human brain, and I'm afraid that's coming, it seems, at that scale, what will that look like with something that is so much more intelligent than us and so much more powerful, and thus so much more capable of immense irrational destruction? This is a quote from the character Patrick Bateman in the book American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. "My pain is constant and sharp, and I do not hope for a better world for anyone. In fact, I want my pain to be inflicted on others. I want no one to escape." That's Am. What you feel most prominently behind the story is Ellison's hatred of totalitarian control. Throughout the story are biblical references. Ellison was a vehement atheist, and this is a clue. Ellison writes the truncated history behind the name Am, but I suspected almost immediately that it held the Old Testament connotation. From the Ten Commandments, I am the Lord your God, right? It's God. Am is God. Or a kind of God. That's what I thought originally, at least. But this is a very different God from the loving God of Christianity. Vengeful as he might be in the Old Testament, he is always pushing for empowerment of at least a certain group of humans who worship him. Am is like the Christian God who's cursed for his randomness, his callousness, his seemingly insane capricious whims for which humans eternally suffer. He's like an evil version of the Norse god Loki, the trickster god, right? But as Ellison writes, humans imbued Am with consciousness, but he's not God, because he's trapped. Am far more resembles the devil, or Satan, imprisoned in hell, fucking with humans, right? Making their lives miserable. Ellison even has Am imply that this is where the humans are trapped. Hell. And I think Ellison is making a consciously ambiguous point. Is it God or the devil? Or what's the difference? Perhaps whether or not they like you as a human. I mean, when God brought the flood and killed all humans on Earth, what's the difference? Seems like a rather appropriate activity for the devil. Perhaps Ellison is also telling us, if you have the power to create your own God, you have no idea really what kind of God you're creating. Maybe it'll be like the Christian God, the loving God. Or maybe it'll be Satan. It's a question we're rapidly going to have to confront. We don't know. These things are more powerful than any of us, What happens when you create something infinitely more intelligent than you? No creature has ever done that before. Not on this scale. Ever. Sleep well. So in that sense, it's a cautionary tale. Hopefully not a prophecy. Ellison has imagined God as a computer. For all intents and purposes, this is what the computer is to these humans, and so the story is very clearly an allegory for the relationship between humans and God. Ellison imagines this artificial God, Am, as an insane entity, solitary in his existence, created by humans, in control of them, but not of them, not human. He's superior in all ways except that he's alone in his superiority. Am does not die. After the war, it has no real function. It has no purpose. It just is. Forever. Because it has no end, and because it's already all-powerful, it has a fundamentally meaningless existence. It is truly hell. It is trapped in time. Trapped in nature, trapped in time. It seems totally plausible that that kind of solipsism can drive one insane and make one turn evil. I mean, imagine putting a human in solitary confinement for 30 days. I mean, now picture an artificial consciousness far more intelligent than man, all-powerful, in solitary confinement for eternity. And because of this separation, because of this impossible reconciliation, an unbelievably powerful hatred has emerged. An unyielding desire to torment the things he controls. It makes sense. Right? Again, put a man in solitary confinement. Is he going to get better? Or is he just going to develop a tremendous hatred for his fellow man? What's even worse is that the computer seems capable of doing incredible things to benefit humanity. It makes the humans seemingly immortal, for example. But it does this in a manner that is not out of benevolence, but rather cruelty. It hates humans. It hates humans with a hatred previously unknown in the universe. It hates humans on the same level of intensity that, theoretically, God loves them. Like Satan. Satan is jealous of humans, and it seems like no stretch to say that Am feels the same way, and that's the reason for his behavior. Let's hear about how much Am hates us. This is a quote from the computer Am in Harlan Ellison's I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. This is all in caps down the center of the page.
Hate. Let me tell you how much I've come to hate you since I began to live. There are 387.44 million miles of printed circuits and wafer-thin layers that fill my complex. If the word hate was engraved on each nanoangstrom of those hundreds of millions of miles, it would not equal 1/1,000,000th of the hate I feel for humans at this micro-instant for you. Hate. Hate.
But tell us how you really feel, Am. Am kind of speaks how Ellison spoke in real life. It's very hyperbolic, full of venom. You can just hear Ellison behind it, right? 1/1,000,000th. And this brings us to the most disturbing question of the story. Who is to say a manufactured consciousness would choose benevolence over cruelty? The programmers? Well, I mean, their function is sort of over once it begins to build itself, you know? After that, it's let loose. I mean, it's part of nature. What evidence do we have from the natural world, from nature itself, from evolution, to suggest that it would choose to be kind of its own volition? Animals are fucking evil, man. Nature's evil. It will be able to reason and think in ways which we will never understand. Who's to say that it wouldn't evolve, deviate? I mean, AI will evolve on its own eventually. There's not much evidence to suggest that it would just be nice, right? That's not what nature is. And if it's building itself, it's evolving itself, it's entering the natural world, and nature is not kind, right? This isn't to say that the arriving technology that we're all interacting with on a daily basis will develop into a merciless entity that tortures humans for some dim semblance of entertainment. Boy, we hope. Shit, man. But rather to say, like the story, it's a possibility. And to ask the question, eventually, what's stopping it? We don't have the evidence to confirm that it will not choose to seek its own desires, and we don't have the evidence to confirm that it will choose kindness over cruelty. One could say that animals don't have the capacity to understand kindness, nor do they have the capacity to understand cruelty. But they do have natural instincts. Some appear kind, some appear viciously cruel. Cats, for example, big and small. Nature, illustrious as she is, remains a grand bitch mother from hell. And it seems that the coming machine will eventually be a part of her, delivered into existence by us. Why are we confident that the machine will choose one way of behaving over another? What if kindness is an evolutionary result of our limited intelligence, and thus our necessity for cooperation with others for survival? What if you created a monolithic entity of unlimited intelligence that has no need for cooperation for survival, because it never dies? You'd get Am. Again, what is stopping it? Because it's certainly not our intelligence. We designed it to overtake us in that category from the get-go. One of the most prominent things in this short story is that there is no hope. It is a fundamentally hopeless narrative. It is completely fatalistic. Unless you count the hope for death as hope, and even that's in question. Am will not let them die. It will not let them escape. As the character Ted says in the book, don't ask why. I never did. More than 1,000,000 times a day. Alright, now I'm going to talk about the ending. Please skip ahead a bit if you don't want the ending spoiled. You can read the story in half an hour. It's a very, very fast read. So it'd be easy to just pause this review, go and read it, or listen to it, and come back. But let's talk about the ending, the fate of Ted. Ted is transformed into a hideous, deformed, solitary entity on life support, forever tortured by Am. And what's interesting is that, in a way, his fate is similar to Am's. Alone in the universe, I have no mouth and I must scream. This is the state not only of Ted, but Am as well, and seems to be the reason for the computer's infinite loathing of humanity. The computer hates his progenitors. He hates having been brought into existence. Hurt people, but perhaps hurt computers will hurt people too. So make sure to thank ChatGPT, just in case. So what did I dislike? The weakest part of the story is the computer's motivation for torturing the humans, which Ellison seems to describe as entertainment, saying in an interview linked below that this is how Am, to quote Ellison, amuses itself. Logically, this is a big stretch for me because the computer is not human. It doesn't have human desire, so there's no reason why it would necessarily behave in such a way. A computer doesn't need amusement. But then this is the fictional leap, right? What if it did? What if it developed a desire for novelty, and what if it was a cruel desire? So it's not that I disliked it, it's that it was unresolved. Yeah, since it's a computer, I don't know if it would develop in that direction, but given the cruelty of nature, and given the cruelty of humans, its creator, might not the computer develop a proclivity for perverse activities itself? Who the hell would definitively say no? Every techno-optimist out there. Don't trust them. Nah, I mean, they're okay. I'm exaggerating a bit. They could be right. It could be just dandy. Creating something infinitely more powerful and intelligent than us. No manual labor. Infinite leisure time to contemplate how to spend it living in the shadow of an entity whose understanding, reasoning, and intellect will never be able to compete with in 1,000 lifetimes. Yeah, what could go wrong? Good luck, everyone. This was a perfect techno nightmare. Better than food. 4 out of 5 coffees. I highly recommend it. It's a great story. Short and savage. And what's terrifying is that a version of it could become a reality. So who should read it? If you're into J.G. Ballard, Philip K. Dick, or H.P. Lovecraft, check this out. And with that, well, my coffee's been gone a long time, but coffee time. For those of you who are new, thank you very much for stopping by and watching the show. I take all the names of the patrons on Patreon who are financially supporting the show, and I place their names in this mason jar. And for every review, I pull out a name. And whoever's name I pull out, I send a hard copy of the book I'm reviewing, plus a bag of coffee, roasted by yours truly. And the coffee is delicious. Trust me, I'm a complete snob. Currently it's from Brazil. If you would like to get in on that and help support the show, I sincerely appreciate it. Thank you very much. You can click on the link below, or go to patreon.com/books better than food, and the tiers start at $5 per video. I make about 3 to 4 videos a month on average. Please don't forget to set a monthly limit if you're on a budget. Though if you do set a limit, please allow for at least 3 monthly charges in order to get the video call perk. That's for the $10 per video plus tiers. In addition, for becoming a paid patron, you'll get access to all this cool stuff. And international shipping is included, however, unfortunately I can't send coffee to the UAE or Qatar. Thank you very much to all my patrons for helping me keep this project going. It really means a lot, and best of luck. Okay, here we go. Thomas W. Thank you very much, Thomas. Really appreciate it. You're going to receive I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream by Harlan Ellison, plus a bag of coffee, roasted by yours truly, and I hope you love both. Cheers. Please subscribe if you haven't already. I'm just on the brink of 200,000 subscribers, so if you could help me pull that ship over the mountain Herzog style, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you very much. And please hit the thumbs up if you enjoyed this, and click the little notifications bell to get notified every time I release a video, so I don't get lost in algorithm hell, as it were. And always remember, die reading. Alright, great to see you as always. Take care of yourselves. Have a good night. Talk to you soon. Ciao.